Hi, I'm Stacy Reed, and I am here today with I've Decided Media, and I'm excited to be your host for the community show that we're going to do once a month. And we've got some special guests here to talk about. Our word today is heritage. So we're going to chat about heritage and what that means. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and we're excited to be here with you today.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. My name is Micheline Maloof, and I'm the owner and creator of Sculpt Mode by Micheline Fitness.
My name is Bryce Garber, and I am a member of the Whiskey Daddle Races team here in Peoria.
Awesome. So nice to have both of you with me. And for today, we're going to kind of focus on heritage. So most of our conversation is going to be based around that. And ironically enough, today, with it being September 11th, I think the first conversation we'll just have is the fact that things happen and they become part of our heritage. And sometimes they're good and sometimes they're not so good. And that is definitely one of those things that we all are kind of walking around today with a little bit of different heart and stepping our foot. So I just wanted to chat about that. We all remember where we were and what we were doing at that time. I think 17 years ago it's been, which seems crazy to me too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I just, like you were saying, I just remember just time standing still. I was in my kitchen, ready to go off to school, and we were all watching this as we were eating breakfast right before school, and we were hearing that there were some rumors of a terrorist attack, and maybe it's just a freak accident, who knows? We don't want to think the worst of anything. So
Right.
Going to school, our hearts were just really heavy. And then I remember even going to school, it was confirmed that it was a terrorist attack, and every classroom turned it on, and we all watched because it was such it's a part of our history now, like you were saying. So I just remember that morning like it was yesterday. I remember what I was eating, and time just stood still. So it's a great day to remember those who fight for our country and, understand that did happen in our country and it was terrible. But, growing forward and just preventing that from ever happening again is key. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm similar to you. At school, I think we were actually in one of the auditoriums listening to a motivational speaker. At least my class was, and just the rest of the day, once we got back to our classrooms, the television's being on, everybody was glued to the TV, what's going on, what's going to happen next. Obviously trying our best to scour the news sources, that day and the coming weeks, and just trying to make sense of it all, especially as a high schooler at the time, not really understanding what the impact was or who these groups of people were. But obviously since then it's changed life as we know it here in America and globally for that matter. And I know a lot of my friends and family members, enlisted and became more patriots themselves.
Wow.
Through the military. So.
Yeah, I never even thought about how people probably even responded to that in that way. I never ever even really even thought about that part that people would in that time frame when you're in high school. Absolutely.
Yeah, as soon as you were able to anyway.
Yeah, right. I know even just driving in this morning, driving by even like the fire station, I drive by it every day and probably, not that I don't pay attention to it, but definitely today it was one of those things where you pay attention to a little bit of different things, and the things that we take for granted that you today specifically, try to pay attention to. So, yeah.
I think a big event like that just really shakes the apathy or your understanding of those first responders, right?
Yeah.
For my entire life, that those individuals exist,
Yes.
but that role plays a whole different meaning in your mind after an event like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then you also, like you see, we just have a deeper sense of patriotism. I see my neighbors who have their American flags up today, and just taking some time today just to remember those who've fallen and those first responders as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's very important.
So I just wanted to kind of start off with that, with it being the day of, but otherwise, we just got done with Grandparents' Day, and that was Sunday. And I guess one of the things I wanted to bring up was whether you celebrate it or you don't or whatnot, it kind of made me think about heritage. And I mean, when I initially think heritage, the first thought goes to family heritage. But I also want to also bring up the fact that we have Bryce here to talk about cultural heritage, and I've never really thought about that. But when Kim had asked me to host and do this show, and being about community, I really wanted to think outside the box beyond just a name, but what that meant. And so I'm excited to get to you as well. But I guess all of us can think about traditions and heritage in our family. And so what are some things that, when I thought heritage, of course I thought family traditions, but what about you guys? What do you think about when you hear heritage and family and.
Yeah. For me, I grew up in an extremely tight-knit family, not only an immediate family, but extended family as well, knowing our aunts and uncles and cousins, grandparents, every major holiday, Father's Day, Mother's Day, we were together as a family with the patriarch and matriarch there. I'm sure you can relate a little bit there too. But always just celebrating together as a family, whether it's our mutual love for the same sports teams or just local teams and spirit as well.
Awesome.
Absolutely, that's neat. Same here. So our family's very big, but we're tight knit. And my background, my Lebanese family and my Spanish family, we celebrate with food, lots and lots of food. So one tradition that I grew up, and my grandpa, Jim Maloof, he loved, and we look forward to it every year. And since his passing, we still carry it on. Is one specifically, and of course it's tailored around food, but it's Sfiha Day. And Sfiha is a meat pie or spinach pie that you make, and it's a little triangle shape. I don't know if you've ever seen one of those before, but we literally get together right after New Year's and we make just a bunch of Sfihas. And what's really neat is that my grandpa, he was actually an incredible chef. Like, he could bake his, so we use his dough recipe, and that's carried on throughout our Sfiha Day. So we carry him with us even throughout. We make a bunch of Sfihas and we eat most of them, but then we give what we don't, we don't
what
eat.
is in this?
What's in it?
Yeah.
So,
is it like I'm visualizing like a pot pie.
Well, it looks so basically there's two different kinds. There's one with meat, and it's like ground, it's a mixture of ground chuck and ground something else, and pine nuts.
Okay.
And so you put that in the dough, and then you make a triangle shape, and we actually teach like the young kids how to do it, and it's something that we want to be passed on.
Wow.
So that's the meat pie, and then the spinach pie is spinach and pine nuts and lemon, and it's really bright and flavorful. And then we put that in the oven, and it's delicious. It's crazy. So it's a savory pie.
Okay.
Yeah, handheld pie.
Okay.
And I'll bring you one someday.
Yeah,
After New
right,
Year's, guys.
right.
Okay, just remind me.
We should have had this discussion before we filmed, so we could we'd be eating the
So
pies.
I should bring one?
Right,
Oh my
right.
gosh, it is a process. It
that's
takes like
awesome.
3 people. We just
That is so
one
cool.
person
How
making the
neat.
dough, then one person stuffing it, one person putting it together, and one in the oven. But we love food, so that's so we celebrate food and family after New Year's. So that's one thing we love to do.
Good
and
family
still do it.
time.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good family time.
And it's neat to take those traditions and keep them rolling, like you mentioned. Showing the littler ones. There's some of the traditions that I remember growing up as a kid that have since passed with certain people in our members of our family that have passed, and gosh, as much as you want your kids to relive some of those things. So that's neat that you're showing and extending it.
We put them to work.
That's awesome.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes. So
Very
they
cool.
can carry it on one day too.
Yeah.
And we show them the recipes. So
that's neat. That's wonderful.
got to carry it on.
Very cool. Very cool. So one of the other, with history and heritage is cultural heritage. And so I want to give you a moment to talk about how the Whiskey Daddle became, because I was at actually a wellness fair with Adam, and he shared, we kind of were slow in the afternoon, and he shared, and I was just like, I had no idea all the history and all of the background behind this event, and and how community and cultural it is. So I'm excited for you to share, because I definitely walked away with a total different understanding of just what it is. So
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people don't know that extended history of Peoria.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of us only know what our lives have told us during the
Yes.
last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But over 100 years ago, at this point in time, 2018, the turn of the 1900s, we were a big metropolis. Peoria was, for a lot of aspects, the center of the world here in America, or globally, trade and otherwise. But at the time, it was a hotbed of ideas, of innovation, of health and well-being. The downtown here was booming with horses and carts. A couple of the early pioneers of the electric or the motor car were from around here, and whiskey was a big thing. A lot of people don't know that about Peoria. There were dozens of distilleries along the Peoria riverfront, spanning as far south as where ADM is these days. That was the Hiram Walker. That was the Great Western Distillery back in that time. And we were pumping out millions of gallons of whiskey here in Peoria to the tune that we were called the whiskey capital of the world. And
wow,
we all know how the story went, but if
Yeah.
it weren't for Prohibition, where could Peoria have been otherwise?
Right.
But at the
Sure.
time, it was something to see.
That is so cool. That is unreal.
That is really neat. I didn't know half of that. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew about, during Prohibition, but that's about it.
Yes.
Actually, Tannen and Hops, have you been there?
Mm-hmm.
So the owner, he does a great job of talking about that deep history. And actually, where Tannen and Hops is right now is actually one of the areas where whiskey was shuttled in and out during Prohibition. And I think that is just neat that it has
Yeah.
that deep story. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
When I was in school, I dreaded history class. I mean, I just was never a history person. I love numbers, so math was my favorite. But as I've gotten out of school, and I think the older I get, the more I'm just intrigued with history and the background of things. So
Yeah.
I wish now, of course, you always
Yeah.
say that. Now I'm showing my age that you wish you would have paid attention better on certain things, and that's one of them.
And I think we start to ask ourselves some of those deeper questions as we get older too. Just walking around downtown Peoria, I wonder when that was built, or why
Yes.
that's here, that memorial or that building. Why is
Absolutely.
some of these houses up on Moss Avenue? Where did these come from? When did these get built?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them came during that time period here in Peoria where money was rolling. Some of the great whiskey barons, were from some of those larger houses up there on the bluff. So a lot of the
That is
history
so
comes from
cool.
that time period.
That is really neat. That's really cool.
So you ran in the Whiskey Daddle.
I did. I ran in it last year, and it
Share
was
some of the
Oh.
events and how that all
it
works.
was a blast. So
Because it's
actually
more than
people-
just a run.
Yes.
I mean, there's events and all kinds of
Well,
things.
yep. And so I did the 5K last year with a few friends, and it was a blast. But this year, unfortunately, I have a wedding, so I can't attend. But I loved that some people dressed up. And did you see, they had some people in mustaches? They look like whiskey barons, and they ran in that get up the whole time.
Oh, my
And then it's really
goodness.
cool that you could just celebrate the history of Peoria. And at the end, you get snacks and you even get a beer. And I don't know if this year, I thought I was getting whiskey at the end. I didn't, but it's okay. Maybe next year. We'll talk to Adam. No, I'm just kidding. No, but it was a really wonderful event. And if I could do it again, that was one of the most fun I've had on a run.
That's awesome.
And you run around downtown Peoria, so which is cool. So you can get to see,
lot of
the
it.
buildings, and it's really nice. It's pretty.
That's exactly what we hope to do. I know that there are other events, other organizations that exist to promote Peoria's history, and we want to dovetail into that conversation as well around a marathon, a citywide marathon that we've had going for several years, and we really wanted to pull that story out for this event. To be able to go up and down those streets that I was mentioning that built those larger homes, or downtown Peoria to see some of the buildings. But yeah, it's a whole event weekend. We have a 5K on Saturday, the SHOT 5K.
Okay.
And then we have a marathon relay, a half marathon, and a marathon. So that would be the bootlegger marathon relay, the bottle half marathon, and a barrel full marathon.
Love it.
Boston qualifying marathon that
That's awesome.
we tout and pull out that history, like you mentioned. A lot of them dressed up in the whiskey daddler
They did.
garb.
It was funny.
Yeah.
I got pictures with some of them. But if you do that marathon, that medal, I don't know what it looks like this year. It's a gorgeous It's huge. So
Yeah.
add that to your collection.
Right.
Because it's hefty. I'm like, can I get that for the 5K shot?
Yeah, there you go.
I'm like, I just want that. I can't do the 26.
Yeah, and there's finisher medals for everyone.
Yes, I did get a medal.
They're large. Last year they were half barrels that we had scaled to size according to the distance of the race. But
That's
this year we'll have bottles this year
Oh,
to
cool.
to showcase. So yeah, it's a great time to really celebrate where Peoria has been and where we hope to go again someday.
Awesome. Well, good deal. So one other thing is I want to just real quick, if we could, even to put a little bit of a spin, I'd like to talk, you carry the Maloof name and, I think we tend to think that, boy, lucky you. You've got a name that's recognizable, and the cool thing is it's a proud name to wear. So I'll say that a well-respected name in the community.
Thank you.
So that's awesome. I want to talk to you just a tad bit about what that's like, to maybe grow up, when you have a name that sticks out and stands out, and maybe the pros and cons to that, and how that's maybe helped you or made challenges for you when it comes to having a heritage behind your name.
Sure. Yeah. So our heritage spans in Peoria since 1908, actually, with my great-great-grandfather. And he was an entrepreneur himself, as well as my great-grandmother. So they started out with a market, actually on 1st and State Street. And then they opened a Maloof Cleaners. And my grandma, who spoke not a lick of English, only Lebanese, only Arabic. She went door to door selling linens. Wow. So from that, my grandpa saw that, and we just, the Maloof family, we've just been entrepreneurial mindsets.
Yeah.
That's kind of in our DNA. So they're hard workers too.
Yeah.
So they weren't just given anything. They came to this country with nothing and started something. And, from that, my grandpa took over the Cleaners and then created Jim Maloof Realtor in 1969. And, he just wanted to help people, and he knew that just being an entrepreneur is in his blood. And so that's where he started. And it's an incredible thing to have that legacy, and not only just in business, but with St. Jude. That is so deeply rooted in our life. And my grandpa, which I don't know if many know this, but he was on the first board of directors with St. Jude and Danny Thomas.
Oh, wow.
And that I carry it's so special to our family that he was one chosen to be a part of fundraising, the first ones to fundraise for St. Jude. And the highlight of his life was truly the St. Jude affiliate in being in Peoria, one of a handful of
awesome.
affiliates being in Peoria. So we should be very proud to have St. Jude affiliate
Agree.
in Peoria.
Yes.
That being said, I take that with me, and I run for St. Jude. I'm fundraised for St. Jude. I've done that since I was little. But it's just part of our DNA. And so, but with that carries a lot of responsibility. So you said kind of the pros and cons.
Yeah.
I have always wanted to be an entrepreneur myself, and but it comes through the responsibility of, I respect the name, but to keep it, to keep the legacy alive and to uplift that name. Everything I do and think of, and I have to work really hard, but I also know that there's a little more pressure on me to succeed. I just have to uplift what my grandpa did in this community. I'm not stepping in his shoes. No one truly can.
Sure.
Because of just who the man was. But just being able to have that platform of being an entrepreneur, and I know I'll make him proud no matter what I do. And, my uncles, my father's an entrepreneur, so it's just, it makes it tough at certain points. You got to work hard, but that knows the grindstone all the time. But just hopefully you make them proud in the end.
Absolutely. I'm sure
what
you
it
are.
is.
I'm sure you are.
Yeah.
Well, listen, thanks both of you for your time today and for coming in. We sure appreciate it. And thanks again for talking about heritage and your backgrounds and the things that you're involved in.
Thanks for the invite.
Thank
All right.
you.
Take care.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
I looked
PeoriaLife.com.
up and we